everyone to please mute their microphone. Thank you so much. So hi everyone, welcome to yet another interesting session of KoloKwi, a global initiative of Kontempore and KIIT Deemed to be University. I am Charanjit, Design Manager of KoloKwi. Before starting the session, I would like to give a brief introduction of Kontempore and KIIT. Kontempore, which started in 2018 as a knowledge management platform, has within 2 years transformed into a digital company which now not only deals with knowledge solutions but also business solutions. Kontempore is a pioneer in the area of leadership and business solutions, facilitating right talent for business needs and enhancing business productivity through digital procurement solutions. KoloKwi's knowledge partner, KIIT Deemed to be University, is one of the finest and most progressive universities of the country. Ranked 24th in the prestigious NIRF rankings, KIIT has also been recognized as an institution of eminence by MHRD Government of India. It is the youngest deemed to be university with multiple disciplines ranging from management to medical science, social sciences, technology, biotechnology, and many more under one roof with 30,000 students spread across 1,000 acres. So without taking much of your time, let's get going with today's session. We all must have planned 1 or 2 resolutions for ourselves this year, which by now must have flown the coop or waned. Having a curious mind, we thought of learning what our HR family has in mind for this year. So we came up with the topic HR resolution for New Year 2021 for today's session. And to deliberate on the topic, we have a great lineup of speakers from Singapore, Hong Kong, China, Thailand, and India. Welcoming our esteemed speakers, I would like to give a brief introduction of them. So first, we have with us from Singapore, Mr. Appandairajan Krishnakumar. He is a human resource generalist with proven track record across areas like relationship management, talent management, employee engagement, employee relations, and many more. Over the last 13 years, he has gained international and multicultural working experience covering many countries like India, US, UK, South Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and few others. He has worked with Standard Chartered Bank, Singapore, and Dell, and currently he is working with Mastercard. Next, we have Mr. Arindam Mukherjee. He is from Thailand. He is a strategic and forward-thinking human resource leader with more than 20 years of diverse hands-on experience across various HR disciplines. He has proven expertise and practical experience with a deep emphasis in HR strategy implementation, operation, compensation and benefits, performance management, and HR systems. He was associated with Hilti for almost 4 years, and since over 9 years, he is working with DKSH. Next, we have Chang. I hope he has joined. Is Chang there?
Yes, he joined. He joined.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. So our next speaker is all the way from China, Mr. Chang Liu. He is a global HR executive with wealth of experience in compensation and benefit, human resource shared service center, and human resources information system in diverse industries. His past experience include companies like Mercer, Qatar Airways, Goldwyn, and Yuxin Financials. Last but not the least, we have Ms. Sonali Kumar from Hong Kong. Just a second. Yeah. So we have Ms. Sonali Kumar from Hong Kong. Currently, Sonali is working with Zurich Insurance Company and is responsible for leading talent management, learning and leadership development in Asia Pacific region. She has worked for companies like H&M, New York Life Insurance Company, and Hewitt Associates. Extending a very warm welcome to all our speakers. And to moderate this exciting session, we have with us Dr. Sanjay Muthal. He is the CEO of Kontempore. Most of us already know him. He is very well known in the HR fraternity with more than 33 years of experience in India and abroad. He has led many HR departments for various top companies like Pyramid Group, RPG Group, Hinduja Group, just to name a few. I would request Dr. Muthal to take over from here. Over to you, Dr. Muthal.
Thank you, CJ, and welcome to all esteemed speakers as well as people on this session who have joined us despite their busy schedule. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope 2021 beckons with huge hope for humanity. It has a huge aspirations for humanity. And so it is for businesses, and so it is for business executives like us, and so it is for the profession that we represent, which is human resource profession. Interesting subject. I thought resolution for HR in 2021. And I just thought, what is resolution meaning? Resolution is something which is something that you want to do, and you have a definite plan to achieve and resolve that particular issue in a defined period of time. Unlike my new resolutions of every year, which is shedding of weight, be more punctual on exercises, do an extra kilometer of jogging, which remain resolutions till I enter the next new year. This year, I guess, is going to be different and very central to the way the businesses will now look at everything, including its people. Clearly, one can see an era, what I define as AC and DC, AC and BC, before COVID and after COVID. We're going to look at different paradigms in terms of managing our businesses, resources, geographies, and people. The center of or epicenter of all that we will do in the businesses continues to be the CEO and the leadership team. But for want of any better word, if any function in an organization took the centricity due to pandemic, and the way forward is none other than human resources function. And silver lining for all of us, at least to me, is we will now get the dew under the sun for this particular function, because every business realized, which of course we used to talk about our EVPs, people are our best assets and what have you, or the only competitive advantage. But the pandemic clearly showed that today the business is all about people, how effectively you manage them. But one thing that emerged to me was the basic human tenets came to the fore in the pandemic. Be it empathy, be it sympathy, be it sense of belongingness, be it sense of social security, be it sense of creating the value proposition around individual employee. All our EVPs talked about all that I just said. But as Gary Hamel wrote, the pandemic and the post-pandemic era will certainly or has to certainly lead from bureaucracy to humanocracy. For me, this is a very central theme in my mind for all the HR leaders and the business leaders as they engage in 2021 agenda. How do you migrate from a bureaucratic organization to humanocratic organization? And as somebody said, that empathy is no more soft skill. It has become a business skill. Moment the word empathy used to be raised in the boardrooms, all the eyes would turn toward the HR director as if he was the pall bearer of everything empathetic in that organization. And the point I'm driving to is anything that was intangible sat in the bucket of human resources. And somewhere it also did a lot of dysfunction to this function. Because every business understands the language of numbers. And in intangible, it became beyond a point to drive this point that how can I define empathy and show you how empathetic the organization is. And hence this journey of people management, human resource management, and leadership in the pandemic gave us this beautiful, beautiful people centricity as the core of existences of the businesses. Businesses who understood this really did well even in pandemic. Businesses who were only giving the lip services to this and looked at their lag indicators. You know, whenever you are doing well, you keep tracking leading indicators. But when the chips are down, you start tracking lag indicators, optimization, cost realization, cost rationalization, people rationalization, so on and so forth. And I saw, at least from my experience in India and some of my clients in the Middle East and Southeast Asia, that first thing people touched, as if that was important to touch, was people. May not be, at least in the organizations where people cost is piddly 5% to 10%. Can we have not looked at something else before we went to people? Because all your value proposition said that people are my best asset, biggest asset. I can empathize and sympathize in the organizations or the sectors which got really affected, services sector, and they already had their people cost pegged at 70% of their total P&L or total sales. One can kind of relate to that and look at that rationalization with some rationale, but not for other businesses where it wasn't required. That clearly drove me to think that people become a very subjective subject when the chips are down. And when the chips are good, we all do song and dance about people, celebrations, and what have you. And therefore, I am looking at some of these, how especially our friends from Southeast Asia, you gentlemen and lady, are looking at this subject as we usher 2021 and usher into after COVID era. As I said, the paradigms about people management took a shattering. Suddenly, Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs reversed. From self-actualization needs to basic safety needs came on top for the time being. All this is really a maze for leaders, practicing leaders like yourselves. And now you need to champion humanocracy at workplace as we move ahead. Sometimes they say business is very cutthroat and it only understands number. But pandemic, I think, taught us that numbers come only if people relate to that organization. People get sense of belonging that organization in that organization. And therefore, to open our today's discussion, I'm going to request each one of you to just take 2 minutes and talk about what you think is the resolution for 2021 for each one of you. Maybe I'll start with Sonali. Over to you, Sonali.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Muthal. I think you've touched on a few very important points. And I mean, for us, 2021 is going to be about rethinking three things actually: work, the workforce, and the workplace. So when I talk about work, obviously, COVID has accelerated digitalization far beyond anybody's expectations. So if I just take a simple example from HR and L&D, for example, a lot of the training that was happening earlier was face-to-face. Now, today, what we do is all virtual sorts of development and training, and also with respect to employee onboarding. So everything is moved virtual. So that really requires us to also train and upskill our people. And again, this applies to every function where the nature of work has changed, and that requires upskilling. So that obviously is something that is top of mind for us. And also looking at the future, there are so many jobs which are not going to exist anymore. So how do we really prepare our employees for the future and build their skills for the future so that they can take their jobs in the new world? So that's on the work. Then on the workforce, obviously, there are different models now. I mean, there is a hybrid model that we will see, because some people want to continue to work from home. Some people prefer to come to the office. But we see a vast majority of people, say more than 70%, wanting to work at least 3 days a week from home. So that again really changes the employer-employee relationship. And then we also are getting requests where people want to work from another country. You know, they have aging parents, for example, and it's not so easy now to do a 2-week trip, right? You have quarantine on both ends, and then you would like to go, end to end, it would be like 3 months. So there are all of these requests as well that we need to be empathetic towards and cater towards. So that really will drive us to look at our mobility policies, for example. Then there are tax implications as well to look into. So that is something that we have to think about. Also, 9-to-5 job is no longer what is going to work anymore, because people also grappling with the needs of their families at home, kids learning from home, elderly parents to take care of. So I think managers also need to sort of adjust their style in terms of how they evaluate people, and giving them that flexibility to work, in the hours that work for the employees.
Thank you, Sonali. I'm going to stop you here, if you don't mind. I'm just picking up your initial thoughts on resolutions. So I like what you said: building new skills, hybrid model, and special focus on the mobility policy. So I'm parking that here in my notes. I'm going to move to Chang now. Chang, China has been epicenter of everything that happened in 2019, and the resolution of the way Chinese way that happened also one saw in terms of efficacy and effectiveness. What do you think is resolution for a Chinese HR in 2021? Just 2 minutes answer.
Okay, and thanks for the invitation, and I'm so glad to share my opinions about the revolution for the 2021. And actually, China is suffering in the 2020, but we are covering so fast. And now, for the company or for enterprise, they have much pressure to release, and they need growth, and they need to survive. And I think for HRs, there are a few tips for them. The first one is from these course advisors, we can see for a long period of time in the future, enterprise may be weakness in management and strong in the operation. And the requirement for the HRBP will be higher. And at the beginning, like the HR people need to think about how to buy a mask and how to prepare to back to work, to office, and to check the policy from the central government and the local government. But now the HR people need to think about how to work with business and how to train the business. Even themselves, they need to go to do the business. I think this is the first point thing. And from my compensation aspect, because I'm a compensation guy, and I think we need to consider how to evaluate the different kind of people. It's not because of course virus, everything is stopped, but it is refreshed. And there are so many new jobs and new positions coming. For example, the online education developed so fast in China, and we also see the VR and the AR and the technician guys are much more popular in the market. And it's not like the only internet company to purchase them, but all kind of companies purchase them. So I think this is like the conversation people need to how to evaluate this is new developed positions and the new trend for the industry. I think this is one thing. The other thing is I think we need to work close with the CEO. It's not only an HR thing, HR business thing. Business may be stopped or the client gone or the business transformation maybe happen during the coronavirus and maybe no money to pay. If we think we must pay and we must pay this at this moment, you are not good at HR. You need to think the cash flow for the company, how to get the policy support from the government. And if there are any social, maybe in China, we have social insurance, delay payment policies. We need to catch up and get the policy quickly. I think this is a good thing to learn for the HRs. And the last thing, I think it is long-term preparation. And we all talk about the digitalization in the past. I think every company think that digitalization is a backup thing, but now it's totally different. Like today we use Zoom, and every day because of the virus and no one can go to the office store, we use Ding in China. It's like we use Microsoft talking software, and everything is changing. And I think we need to prepare for now and prepare for future. The digitalization is a must thing we need to, and I think it will influence us a lot. This is my opinion.
Thank you, Chang. Thank you. I mean, I really appreciate CEO centricity, working with CEO and influencing in the policies of future. I think it's a very, very valid point that you raised. Rajan, can I now get you in, please?
Thank you, Dr. Mudan. Thank you for this opportunity. So I think you touched upon the sense of belonging and safety. Employees actually need that the most now. And our then CEO and current exec chairman, Ajay Banga, kind of really understood the importance of that. And actually very early on in the COVID crisis, talked about no layoffs and made sure that a lot of employees, all of our colleagues across the world had that sense of security. And I think as we look at 2021, I would say the two big HR resolution areas would be culture, a culture of empathy and purpose. How do we further embed that? How do we further evolve that would be a big focus. And I will talk about a couple of things on what we're doing. And then the second part is around what Sonali also mentioned, which is the whole upskilling and reskilling of our workforce. We have already embarked on a journey of a multi-rail company. So in addition to buying skills from outside, how do we upskill and reskill our existing workforce will be priority for us. On the culture piece, what are we trying to do? I think on the empathy part, how do we kind of try to make sure we understand the individual circumstances or the various nuances that are happening in this pandemic world and make sure that we offer flexibility to our employees. Sonali talked about the fact of travel, mobility. We are talking about how can we offer employees the flexibility in locations when it comes to taking up global roles or regional roles, which again can help people to do roles virtually. And I think COVID has actually helped demonstrate that location will not be a major constraint. The second factor would be around the safety aspects. I think that's going to be very important to get colleagues back in the office. So how do we ensure that most of us have open office concepts. So how do we make sure that the workplace is safe and secure, and we educate our colleagues on the measures that we have taken to bring them all back to work, and also offering other support in the form of mental health, well-being, more collaboration tools, which actually will make them more productive and also simplify work for them in this virtual world. Around the skills, we'll be implementing an internal talent marketplace so that we can offer very diverse and wide range of experiences for our colleagues on top of what they do in their day job, through which we hope to actually achieve a part of our reskilling and upskilling needs. So I would say those two are the big resolution areas for us, Dr. Mutha.
Fantastic. I like what you said on culture of empathy, because I think there has to be a sea change in the culture. And you know, culture is not something that changes overnight. You know, every habit takes time to change, and culture, the way we define, is the way we do things in a particular organization. Organization has a history of years and sometimes centuries. How do you change that? I think is a very important part that HR and leadership will have to play. Arindam, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muthal, and to my fellow speakers. It's a very interesting discussion already begun, and I see that there are a lot of overlapping of the resolutions, what I am going to talk. And there is, nothing new as such. We all are hearing and we are all talking about this, from last maybe 1 year or so. So my resolution, as in general, what I see is that the employee well-being comes first. And what Dr. Muthal has already talked about, the quoting of Gary Hamel, that bureaucracy to humanocracy. This is the best time to prove that by the organization to also strengthen the EVP, that what exactly we are talking about, what exactly we are doing for our people. And business will follow. First, the heart of our organization is our people. And we have to think about a major paradigm shift of leadership in this point of time. So empathy, ethical leadership, unconscious biasness to look at very, very clearly. And very important from my point of view is psychological safety, which we have to ensure. And this at this point of time, especially when we are not working together in the workspace for quite some time already, and we don't know yet when we will go there and work together. So these are the few things which are very important from the cultural and the leadership aspect of any organization. Apart from that, reskilling and upskilling must be a continuous thing to embrace this organization to the next level. And then while we are talking about the reskilling, upskilling, there is also a very important point that being an HR, you have to understand that where the business is growing and how the earning will come, where is the ROI, what investment, what return you are getting out of it. So when we are looking into that, I must say that the cost optimization and the organization structuring and designing is very important in this point of time. And cost optimization is not always cost reduction, but also how we are investing and what productivity we are gaining, the efficiency, what we are getting. So that means that if we can embrace gig economy more and more moving forward in this, in this situation, unprecedented situation, then I think HR will help the organization in a much better way. And rather than a cost center, HR can also prove themselves as a profit center over a period of time. That is my vision, basically. And definitely, last but not least, is the agility, adaptability, and resilience, which the organization, management, as well as the leaders must work very intensely close to their people to bring this in any organization. So these are the few things.
Super. I like your well-being and psychological safety. I think that really came to the fore. Especially first 2-3 months, people were not knowing what's happening.
Yeah.
Am I going to be there? Is my company going to survive? Am I going to be laid off? And there were more disinformation than information. Also, the way organizations reacted, and I can talk about India more authentically. We were reactive. There was no proactive action any business took when we are looking at pandemic hit coming at you. And every time we used to think, oh, it's not coming here, it's in China. Okay, now it's gone to US. We are safe. Till suddenly end March, we were, down with the lockdown.
Exactly. I found this, Dr. Muthal, I found a very nice analogy for this, that we are in a shape, and that shape is in the middle of the sea, is going through a major storm, facing a major storm. Now, when the ship is sinking, whether you are on that, the sea end or the top end, doesn't matter, that you are on the ship. So a day will come if that person, now it is your problem, it is not my problem, I am safe. That is absolutely not going to happen.
So, let's now come to a little more specifics for audience to get some value out of our conversation further. The pandemic saw most of us working from home. In a manner, it made us a kind of individual contributor. Although over a period of time, via technology, we tried to come back to teams and what have you. But when I sat at my home, I missed that flesh and blood interaction with my colleagues. I didn't have that tea breaks for Chang's benefit, tea breaks. I didn't have that social conversation. I didn't talk Bollywood. I didn't talk cricket in Indian context. That was missing, but I was contributing in a manner. So I now got into the hat of an individual contributor in manner of speaking. As we get back to work, we will have to come back to our original avatars in a manner of speaking. What do you think HR leaders will have to get this change again coming back? How are we going to work with people and bringing them back to what you said in terms of psychological safety or the nature of work? I mean, from individual contributor to team player or cross-functional team player. Any thought, Sonali? Again, I'm asking.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dr. Muthal. And this brings me actually to the third point that I was going to cover is around the workplace, because we don't see, it being on either extreme, but we do think that if people are working 3 days a week from home, they should at least come in and interact at least 1 or 2 days of the week with their teams. Otherwise, there is a risk of social isolation and, the burnout that we talk about because of the cognitive overload. You're on like Teams meetings the whole day. And also we are missing out on the innovation if you're not getting teams together. So we are about to come out with a global policy on this, on flex working. It's still not out, but I suspect it's going to be a mix of, working from home and coming into the office. And therefore, what we need to do is rethink the workplace as well. Because at the moment, obviously, we have a lot of desks for people to sit and do their work. But if people are primarily coming to the office for collaboration purposes, then we have to redesign the workspace so that maybe have a 70-30%, where 30% you have desks for individually focused work, but then the 70% of the office is designed around collaboration. So for innovation or for community activities as well, for the physical and mental well-being like yoga or, for team events and things like that. So we think it's going to be really important to have that sort of a guideline in there so that there is a balance in the way people are working. You're on mute, Dr.
Sorry, Chang, do you want to comment on this? You're on mute, Chang. You're on mute. You're on mute, Chang.
Oh, yes, I'm mute. Sorry.
Now you're okay.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different from other countries and China, because China is recovering so fast, and we encourage people to come back to work. And in my company, almost 90% of the people are coming back to work. The first thing they think about is safety. So for the HRs, we prepare the safety materials for them every day. And we encourage people come back to work because I think that people like the face-to-face feeling, and they can discuss safely, and they can efficiently solve problems. But for the HR people, and we need to prepare everything for them, and we have the backup plan because the coronavirus situation is changing every day, and the government have the new policies every day, and it is happening randomly. It's not regularly, and actually, and they give you a ban or they give you the policy at midnight, and the second day it is very tough, and well with strong opinion. For you, you cannot go back. For us, we prepare everything. We encourage people come back work, and we also use the digitalization system to encourage people to work efficiently online. And I think one thing I want to mention, and in 2020, and 10 very hot jobs happened in China. And one is called the psychologist and the private doctors. So we also, in our company, not only the physical feeling of the people, we also spend more time and give them more activities for the employees to make them happy and to feel work is their very interesting thing for them. I think it's a different thing we do. And in my opinion, in the future, I think that digitalization or work at home is a very good way, but people need to communicate. People need to have the interaction. So I think go back to workplace to work. Still the most good thing for company and for the development and for the new ideas come back. Yeah.
So do I hear you say that in China, it'll be back to work physically? And
yeah.
Okay. Interesting, because
yeah, we already come back, and actually in the central government they have their policy to control, and like you can use your mobile to check can you go out to work or not. If it is gray and you can go back to work. If it's red, you need to stay at home. And it's at the beginning it is like the one city they have same code, but now it's like not one city, it is like one area of city. It is the small space, and so they controlled by small space, and like 10% of the city people cannot move, but the other 90% people of the city can move safely. Yeah.
Rajan, in your opening resolutions that you talked about culture of empathy. You basically said work with the CEO and the leadership on this transition in culture. What do you think will be 3-4 triggers that HR will have to work with CEOs as they embark on this journey as a part of 2021 resolution?
Actually,
Sorry, Chang.
Your turn, sorry.
No worries. I think a few kind of important things, Dr. Mutal. First one, I would say, I think it's a +1 to what Sonali and Chang said in terms of the safety as well as reimagining the future workplace and kind of seeing that as a place for collaboration and driving innovation or working on things to drive innovation rather than just normal business as usual work. I think that's what we believe will be the future, and we are preparing ourselves for it. We've got a new CEO who's taken on effective 1st Jan, and his focus is to actually build a multi-rail company. He wants us to be the #1 multi-rail company over the next 5, 7, 8 years. If we need to do that, and we need to have a very diverse and a rich workforce and a talent pool internally. So how do we actually partner with him and help the organization in the journey of reskilling and upskilling our workforce, making sure that we know the jobs that are going to evolve or actually transform in the future. How do we actually predict them and actually start working on developing our colleagues to take on those future jobs or get ready to kind of do those jobs or activities which are going to be the future. So I would say that is the first one. The second one is about building or enhancing the resiliency that we have within our culture. That's going to be the key. The actual return to normalcy or the new normal is going to be uneven, which means different countries are going to actually reach that point of normalization at various times. So taking an approach which is not one size fits all approach, but making sure that there is enough empowerment for the regional leadership teams and the local country leadership teams to see what is the local situation, what are the local nuances, and making sure that there is enough flexibility that is built in terms of guidelines and high-level guidance that we can provide to make sure that we're able to bring the workforce back and also be able to actually further grow our business in those markets and in those countries. That's the second one. The third part is, I would say, helping the leaders understand that we have to invest a lot more in our people managers. I think people managers are so critical. And I think now a pandemic has proven that even more. So hence, how do you continue to invest or maybe increase your investment in people managers, in getting them to better develop, manage, and engage their talent in regards to maybe managing performance, driving productivity, showing that empathy and care, making sure that they know what's going on with their team members and colleagues, even though they don't see them physically, and make sure that they are shown that care. We've actually demonstrated in 2020 as an organization that we actually thrive and we really do well when it comes to caring for our employees and colleagues. And we've scored very high, close to high 80s and low 90s. So I would say those are few things that I'm thinking where HR will work very closely with our CEO and the management committee in helping the organization position itself to come out of this new norm, to kind of move further towards the new normal and also make sure that we are set up for growth.
Thank you, Rajan. Arindam, what would be your thoughts on cultural triggers that HR will have to now work with?
Dr. Mutal, I believe that in this situation, rather than organization, this is also very important that how different countries, because when you have business, national business spread across the globe, it is also quite important that how the government is taking the decision of bringing people back into the workplace and where is the MCO, how long it will be continuing, all these factors are very important. And based on those factors, the organizations in those countries have to take the decisions. And there is anything which is planned, well planned, in advance, may not happen for the organization. So that is why we are basically, from my perspective, what we are doing is that we are, we are preparing our workforce for the uncertainties, so that there is no expectation that, yes, we are going to start work from next month altogether. So and we are ensuring the safety and wellness for those people, and the rest of the people who can continue their job without coming to the workplace, without coming to the office, we are actually allowing them to do it, and mentally preparing them, also very important. This is very important, that mentally preparing them, the guys get ready for the new normal, so that might be it will continue, we don't know, because there are a lot of companies which you have seen, because yesterday also I have seen that the CEO of Unilever have said that, it will become a permanent situation for our office workers to work remotely, or it is, not 100% in the office. So this type of decisions, the very big organizations are taking, who are also happen to be our clients. So it is more of setting the people's mindset, and it is again the growth mindset. I mean, that is extremely important for us, that we have to prepare our people from the fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So for that, whatever learning and the coaching or mentoring which are required, those we are providing to our people through our strong leadership interventions. And coming back to the empathy, coming back to the ethical leadership, as well as psychological safety, these are the pillars for this leadership to prepare our workforce for the future. And again, when we are talking about preparing them, I also say that many organizations in the world, that they have downsides during this last 1 year period. To reduce the cost and also to make it quite concise. So that means what? That these organizations will go back and bring the people back into on board? I don't think so. I mean, what is actually going to happen is that they will take the help of gig economy and flex talents into consideration to run the show moving forward. So that is why it is also important that reskilling, continuous reskilling of our workforce is required, so that they are prepared to embrace the future with the full agility and a growth mindset, that yes, whatever is coming on our way, which is very uncertain, which there is no permanency in this world anymore, so they can survive and they can stand up with a very strong mindset, basically. And that is, in this situation, our leaders are continuously doing like the bonding, bridging, and linking, this type of collaboration, then competencies, what they are actually bringing on board. So this, because when people are in different places, you never know, based on the socio-economic condition of the person or the country itself, whether there is a very good internet connection, or there is a separate room to sit and to do the work. We don't know all these things. So it is also very important that we give the flexibility to our people, that if it is not at home, at least they can go to some places where they see they can work comfortably, safely, and they can do their work, because it is more important for us that the productivity rather than the presence. So that is how the leaders are preparing the workforce moving forward.
Sonali, I wanted to ask you, all of you talked about, or some of you talked about, gig is a way forward, contractual employment increase with the need of the business, and it will also be looked at as the new enabler, as it were, for the entire landscape of future businesses. Now, all of us are trained in a manner to deploy our cultural pillars across our population of workforce, drive those businesses, drive those behaviors, align to that those cultural pillars, and then judge them or help them get evaluated, self-evaluated, whatever, in their performance management by aligning to your cultural triggers, and then also get their accountability out of the work. Now, if you have a gig workforce which comes into your workforce, which is going to, plug in and plug out, how do you deploy culture and the cultural behaviors on that workforce? And how do you create accountability architecture? Is something that I'm really fascinated to understand. So Hong Kong is pretty advanced economy. Would like to hear from you some Hong Kong experience or your organization experience.
So for us, we haven't really laid off employees, or we are not moving to, gig workers. Of course, it's a very need-based decision. Of course, employees have the option to work flexibly or part-time or, share jobs, which is their own decision. But, in that case, we treat them similar to full-time employees. So we would still invite them to all the same onboarding programs, the same learning development programs. They will have access to our learning systems so that, they are getting the same resources that other permanent and full-time employees are getting, so that, they feel part of the organization and can help us build that culture. So last year on Digital Learning Day, we actually rolled out LinkedIn Learning, which is a resource of more than 16,000 courses online. And everyone has access to it, even people who we've hired on a contract basis. So they can use it as well. And then they follow the same performance management process or system guidelines, etc., that we have. So we don't treat them differently, to put it simply.
Chang, what is the Chinese experience around this, where gig economy now is at the doorsteps? And I'm sure in China, you already have used gig and contractual workforce. How do you create accountability for such workforce? How do you ensure when they are doing that work, their outcomes are measured and measured in the same manner, keeping, your values, your ethics, your culture in mind?
Yes, actually, we also provide flexibility to our employees, and even we stopped our check on work attendance, and we trust people, and we use the method of the KPI and OKR, and we set the objective for all employees, and they need to deliver the key results. We don't really care about how many hours they work on it, and even they go out to do some other jobs, because in China we have like the shared car or the shared service, and also share the power bank. But now it is something called the shared staff employee model in China. And we cannot stop them to go to do online sales, or they go to do other jobs, because they need to survive and they need to earn more money. But for us, and we top down to have our objective and give our objectives to all employees, and they need to deliver the result efficiently. And the result needs to be good for the company's development. And I think this is a good way for them. And in our company, our culture is like we want people to happy to work. And we don't give them more pressure on the KPIs, but we give them the direction of the work, and what kind of thing you do is better for the company, and we will pay back. And even in the 2021, and because our business is not so good last year, but we still decide to give the pay review for all the people. But we focus more on the people who have do more revolution, do more good thing to the company. And it is not a very professional measurement way, but we think it is like the cultural plus the key results they provide to the company, to use this way to evaluate people. And this is what I want to think. And I think like the contractors or the part-time work people, we try our best to provide the same environment or same resource like the permanent staff. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Connected with our today's thoughts, we all know that somehow employee experience is becoming a differentiator between good organization and also ran organization. And employee experience will certainly be very central in the whole value proposition of this humanocracy that we talked about and the culture. How do you embed employee experience in a large MNCs like Rajan, you are part of that And that happens now through virtual platform, through technology. You know, in good old days, you could have said that flesh and blood, you know, see a leader and behave like him was a fantastic way to give experience and so on and so forth. How do you embed this in your value system and actually implement that in an HR parlance?
Sure. So I think it's become even more important that HR has to play a very pivotal role when it comes to acting as the listening agent for the organization. I think it should do that really, really well. It's become very important now in this world, especially the virtual world as well. I think that's going to be critical for HR. I think it's about listening to employees. That I would say is the first step. The second step is I think we have to move away from this traditional model of actually looking at devising a project and trying to roll out things over a 6 months, 12 months period, or even multi-year period. How do we kind of listen to employees, get some quality feedback and insights, real-time insights, and translate them into specific, I would say, easily actionable interventions, and then continuously seek feedback and iterate, which is primarily about the agile approach or the design thinking approach. Bringing those practices into the way how we do HR in the organization will be the next step. The third part is, how do you actually become the key driver by partnering with the various departments or functions within the organization, be it finance, be it real estate, be it marketing? How do you actually share these real-time insights or the feedback that you get from employees across all these various different groups so that we could actually have a very joined up strategy and a very joined up plan in what we can do for our employees? I would say if we do all of this, I think we will actually make progress. Dr. Muthu. That's the way how we are looking to approach. And I truly believe that HR has that role of listening and being that driver of bringing everybody together to drive us forward.
Arindam, I wanted to ask you about, employee development now. I mean, if you are talking about experience, people joining, learning, there are new triggers, and HR working with leadership in terms of creating that whole architecture. But important facet of all this, and all of you talked about reskilling and skilling, multi-skilling, so on and so forth. However, employee development is now becoming part of my own choice. You offer Coursera's of this world, and you offer vanilla options to an employee, and he chooses what he wants to do. How do you entwine both in terms of learning versus the experience? Because there are certain... Sorry. Daniel, can you mute yourself? So Arindam, that's my question to you. Over to you.
Yeah, Dr. Muthu, it's a very important part of the organization for its advancement and taking the organization to the next level. And
can I request Daniel David to mute himself?
In our organization, it is very important, the employee and the people development to the next level. And we embrace the process of 70-20-10 approach for that. So where 70 is on the job, 20 is the mentoring and coaching, and 10 is the classroom training. So that is the way we do. So when we are embracing this 70-20-10 approach, you can see that on the job, development is the key to our success, because that is very important, that we see people that they are doing what they like really, and then they are advancing in the organization as well as in their career. That is very important. And it is always what we see is that where is the main interest of a person lies. It is not that we are trying to develop those where the weak points are, but we are very much into the focus that where is the strength. So if we can really take the strength up and we can really help that person to go to the next level, then the organization as a whole will develop over a period of time, and it will be much faster rather than, train a person on their weakness and to develop them to the next level. So that is one of the very important thing. And the culture, what you were talking about, you and Rajan, you were talking about the cultural shift in this particular situation, where we also focus on the feedback culture and the observation of that, and a regular checking with the individual as well as with the team. These are the few things what we regularly do, so that we can hear from the ground that what people are talking, how they want to see things in their life, in their organization, and how to balance this whole thing moving forward. Now, Dr. Muttal, as you have seen that now in this situation, in every organization, we have a multicultural workforce with us who have completely different needs and different value set, mindset, and their aspirations. So that one size will not fit for all. So we need to be very careful about our employees' need and how to address that. Maybe if we just have one-sided thought on this, then we will maybe cater the aspiration or the need of one single generation or two, but then we will completely outfocus those other generations who are making the difference for us. And that is extremely important from the HR point of view, from the leadership point of view. And we are trying to have a more agile, type of, development criteria and the development plans, as well as the benefit plans and whatever you see, just to keep these people, feeling that yes, the organization is there with us. A very, belongingness, that the feeling of belongingness is there.
Thank you. Sonali, any thoughts on the same subject?
Yes, and I agree with Arindam. I think most of the development really happens on the job, and we also have this 70-20-10 principle. As I was mentioning earlier, we've invested in LinkedIn Learning for the whole organization globally for 55,000 of our employees. And also what we're doing is we're building technical academies for each of the functions, like for claims, for underwriting, and hosting it on our learning platform. But that said, I think learning and work needs to be viewed together. So, learning has to happen in the flow of work. If we just tell people, oh, okay, you need to have 20 hours of learning this month or whatever, it's not going to work. However, what we are coaching our managers to do is that you assign goals for people that require them to learn. So for example, if you're asking somebody to run a project, you tell them they need to do it, they need to incorporate, or they need to work on that project using design thinking. And then in order to do that, they have to learn design thinking, right? So through that, people are going to learn new skills if they have to use those to deliver something on the job. Also, we're really pushing on experiences from a talent mobility standpoint. So even during COVID, we provided people with a lot of virtual projects, a lot of virtual assignments. Also, as Rajan was saying earlier, allowing people to do roles from different countries. And I think I'm a prime example of that. So I'm heading up HR for Singapore, but based in Hong Kong. So of course, the idea was that I would travel frequently to Singapore, but that's not happened so far, but it's working fine. So, this is how we're trying to drive development. At the same time, as Rajan also alluded, we are really focusing on the role of the manager. And there are 4 dimensions that we drive from that perspective. Performance, development, engagement, and trust. So these are the 4 dimensions that we evaluate our managers against and train them against. And we set certain metrics as well for them, and setting up of robust development plans for themselves and their team members, and implementation of those development plans is something that we have set as a metric to evaluate everyone. And we can track this from the system very easily. So these are some of the ways that we're trying to build a learning culture and a learning organization. And at the same time, I'd just like to add one more thing that we are doing is building a network of curiosity ambassadors, we call them. So these are people from the business who are our learning ambassadors, so to speak, and they actually on our internal workplace or LinkedIn, etc., are advertising courses that they have completed or learning that they have done, and encouraging their teams also to complete, or recommend those courses to them. So when it really comes from the business versus HR, I think people see it in a different light as well. So these are just a few things that we are doing in this space.
Thank you, Sonali. Folks, on the participants on this session, if you have any specific questions, put that in chat box, because next 10 minutes, I'd like to take a few questions from the audience. One thing that I'm struggling to understand, and I can put that to Rajan, the future of work, where we're looking at increase in remote working, extended combination of hybrid work, so on and so forth. The whole architecture of organization, to my mind, is going to change from designing efficiency to designing resilience. From efficiency to resilience. How can we build that in an organization context?
Yes. So I would say, I would go back, Dr. Buttal, to the piece around drawing the connection between the individual purpose and the organization purpose. I think it becomes even more important. Mastercard believes in doing well by doing good, and we want to have a winning culture, but very importantly, decency is the core of it. That's something we pride ourselves on. So it's about bringing all of our colleagues, be it we are working in virtual world or in person, being guided by a very strong kind of, I would say, a very consistent and a clear set of behaviors. And we call it the Mastercard Way. And it's got 4 very simple things. It talks about the sense of urgency, accountability, thoughtful risk-taking, and simplification. And doing all of this in an inclusive manner, and also being a force for good, right? It's not about just having commercial success or delivering value to our shareholders, but it's also about how do we impact the countries, the markets, and the communities that we operate. And what we do is we actually engage our employees in what is known as community engagement initiatives. And we don't use that just for, like say, philanthropic purposes, but we actually use that as a very deliberate lever for developing our employee skills, or especially leadership skills. And to name a few, we've actually got partnerships with the World Food Program, where we actually get involved our employees to be able to do work. We partner with the How Institute, which focuses on moral leadership, so in that we train our future leaders and young early career talent. 3, we've also, even with COVID, we have not stopped. We are actually focusing on virtual volunteering, trying to actually focus on some of our big priorities like Girls for Tech, because that's an important part. Or even on the financial inclusion side, we are trying to say, with COVID, I think what's also become more apparent is there's so many people who have been excluded. So how do we bring them into the financial ecosystem? How do we give them access to a digital identity, or for that matter, financial credit and all of that? So by having our employees being able to contribute such initiatives, we want to clearly draw that connection between the organization's purpose and the individual purpose. And I believe that will be critical for us to actually help employees navigate this pandemic and also get into the new normal and even beyond.
Thank you. Chang, do you see a lot of effort in China in terms of creating this whole psychological safety for employees as they are coming back to work? What is your experience? What are Chinese companies doing in that sense?
Oh, yes. And I think after in 2021, and more and more people take care of safety. It's not like the only physical safety, also psychological safety. And I know some companies, they start to provide this kind of benefit to employees. And the employees can make an appointment with doctors and they have a small team of doctors provide service only for your company, and every employee can make an appointment. And we also have like the something called the culture treatment, and we prepare the team meetings frequently, and it is not like talking about the work, and they talking about the people's needs and employees' needs because of the coronavirus, and they consider more about safety. At the same time, they need more money, so the pressure is bigger than even before. So we use this kind of meetings opportunity to release their press and to give them more confidence to do the work and get the payback. And this is what we do. And some companies that I see, they do some benefit plans for the for staff. And yeah, this is the thing. I think it is good for employees.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ask all of you now a pointed question. What do you think are 3 HR trends that you'll see in 2021? I only want trends and I don't want any explanation. So what are those 3 trends that you'll see in 2021? Sonali?
I think digitalization definitely across all our processes, focus on the role of the manager, which has already started. And the last one would be, the flex work and how does that work? You know, that the workplace and the flex work policies, etc. That's going to undergo a lot of change.
Thank you. To you, Arindam, what do you think will be 3 HR trends this year?
I think very important will be the employee well-being, number 1. Second is the utilization of technology in HR to optimize cost and to bring the efficiency. And the third one, leadership development and shift in the culture of the organization. This must be the focus for HR.
Okay, thank you.
So for me,
Yes, Rajan.
Yes. So for I do see like the employee well-being and mental health. Second one is the employee experience will come in. And the third part would be the upskilling and the reskilling.
Chang, to you?
Yes, for me, I think the first thing is digitalization. It's not backup digitalization. It is the real digitalization. The second one is the flexibility. And the last one is market intelligence or the government policy intelligence. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a question from a gentleman called Tanveer Khan, who says, what has HR learned out of COVID-19 for betterment of future? It's a very kind of motherhood question, but if there are any specific answers that you, lady and gentlemen, could give.
Yeah, so maybe I can go first. So I think we've actually tend to kind of focus quite normally around processes, policies, guidelines, or providing stability to the organization. But what we've actually learned through this crisis is the importance of the acting with a sense of urgency and agility, and 2, making sure that we put our employees or people at the center of what we do. It's not about what are we trying to do as a process and policy, but it's about what are we trying to actually do for our end employee or that their experience. I think that has become very, very apparent. And we've actually all been forced to adapt and actually do things. And we've been successful in some forms in 2020. I would say that would take a lot more prominence in the years to come. And that I would say is the most important one.
Okay, thank you. Sonali?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, I don't think we can work from a guidebook of policies anymore. We have to evaluate every situation on a case-by-case basis and take a decision also based on empathy, as we were talking about earlier. So that is something we have actually displayed as a fraternity, I think, last year. And I see more decentralization, therefore, as well, of HR decision-making. So you can't anymore have global policies or regional policies. I mean, every country has to operate based on the reality in their location.
All right. Chang, any thoughts?
Yeah, and I think the most important thing for us, for HR, is we need to work in the uncertainty environment. At the same time, we need to have the business mindset. I think this is what I learned from 2020. And we are not just operation HR. We are the HRs with the strategical mindset and to have the business mindset to work more with higher level people and to help the business. Yes, this is what I want to share.
Okay. Thank you. Arindam?
The most important learning is that the HR is the most important function in any organization for any business.
Super.
So
Fantastic.
without that, it is not possible.
Yeah. I have this, I keep asking friends in the fraternity or in the businesses that we all clearly saw that influencing leadership and CEO, when the chips were down, was extremely central to HR leader. And leadership or the business leadership is about compliance. A business leader or the board gives you a mandate and you need to deliver on that. Now, in a little bit deeper question, the compliance comes from this human faculty, which is brain or a mind. But the pandemic showed us that you need to be empathetic, human values must come to the fore, you have to be inclusive, which means you need people not in a compliance mode, but subscription mode. People have to subscribe to the purpose and the value of the organization. And the subscription comes from this part of the human faculty, which is the heart. How do you help this distance travel for a CEO by being his mentor, coach, and influencer? Any thoughts on this? How will you, as a business leader, as an HR leader, work with your CEO or a board or a leadership to make him walk this distance from compliance to subscription? Anybody can take this.
I think this is going into one of the very interesting say that one of these CFO said to a CEO that why are we spending so much of money to develop our people if these people are leaving tomorrow? And the CEO answered that just think that we are not spending any money and these people are staying forever. So I think this is a very great analogy where we can see that already the business leader and the top business leaders, the CEOs of the organization are thinking from their heart into the people already, and not always the numbers. Whenever it is coming from here, it is the numbers what we are talking about, and when it is from here, then it is definitely that we are talking about the people centricity and the people in our mind. That people is the heart of the organization, and that is what I think the major organizations across the globe and major leaders across the globe, they have understood it during this 1 year of this unprecedented time of pandemic, that how the people matter for an organization. And I think it is the realization. There is no way of doing a training or a coaching of that, but it's a realization of individual that they can see that where the people and how you will treat the people in an organization as the top leader.
Okay. Sonali, any thoughts?
Fortunately, I mean, I've worked with leaders who get it, so I haven't had to do any influencing. But I think it's really about, because a lot of the HR costs are hard to measure and intangible. So it's really about making them see the value. So if we were to let go of a lot of people, but if we were to rehire them back, there's a lot of cost involved, not just from a recruitment perspective, but really retraining and the whole cultural aspect and all of that. So it's about that, and it's about helping them listen to the employees. So through the focus group discussion surveys that we do, and constantly feeding that back to them, so they really get a feeling of what's happening on the ground and the pulse on the ground, which is important.
Rajan?
Yes. So I think you talked about the customer centricity, and I think the central part of our Mastercard Way is the relentless focus on our customers. And our senior leadership, and especially our CEO, then CEO Ajay Banga, our now CEO Michael Meeback, want to ensure that we stay close to our customers. We actually are there to actually support them and help them navigate this crisis. How do we do this? Or who can actually help us do that? It's actually our people. And hence, it's very obvious that we have to show the care, the compassion, and the empathy and support for our employees, and make sure that their experience is managed and they are engaged. Then, obviously, all of our customers would be supported and actually taken care of very well. I think that's something our senior leadership believes in, and we've seen that very apparently during this COVID times. And I would say that's here to stay forever. And it's been easier for us because it's that relentless focus on that end customer. And as part of the HR function, I think it's our employees who are our customers.
Yes, thank you. Chang, any thoughts from you?
Yes, I agree with them. I think the leadership need to learn how important the people, and it's not from the numbers. It is need to from their heart. And for HRs, we need to provide more opportunities for the leaders to say how your people work and how they contribute to this company and how they bring the values to the company. I think it is like the two-way things, and we need to give more opportunities to employees to show them in front of the leaders. And we also give them more opportunities to the leaders to go to the real workspace and to see how your people work and how your people earn money to the leaders. Yeah.
Thank you. So we are 2 minutes away from the closure, and I want to respect the time. And therefore, I take the privilege to just sum up the afternoon, India, or evening for you that we have spent. I hope it was well spent afternoon. I sincerely hope for the audiences. Importantly, when we talked about resolutions are there for us now to deliver on as we embark on 2020-21 in the after COVID era. And we heard from all of you in terms of building new skills, psychological safety, well-being, culture change, getting those triggers of culture change in the organization, and bringing humane values to everything that you do in the organization. In a manner of speaking, revisiting your employee value proposition, as it were, and redesign it, stitching in the learnings from BC, before COVID era, into AC, which is after COVID era. In doing so, your biggest partner in this change is going to be CEO and leadership and the boards. There is where the HR leaders' ability to influence, counsel, and coach is going to come to the fore. Fortunately, pandemic brought HR at the center of everything that the organization did. Every response of organization was through HR tenet of the organization. And therefore, at the center of every business, HR leader has found his or her place today. But in the new resolution that we now take it up, which is bringing human values to the center of everything that we do, is not going to be easy, because sometimes I get afraid that once normalcy comes in, are we going to go back to our pre-pandemic behaviors, pre-pandemic assessment styles, pre-pandemic interpersonal skills? You know, when pandemic hit, all of us were caged inside and animals were roaming on the roads. And that's the real world, because somewhere we intruded into their lives and made human habitat into the space that was not meant for human. Once we go back, they are going back to their shell and thinking that the real world was not what came for 9 months, but it is the real world which is back. Are we going to see similar things in human relation? I hope not. And I think that's where the real HR work is going to happen. The HR work is going to happen in terms of new resolution of bringing humanocracy at the work through everything that you do in the organization, which is your value system, which is your culture, which is your every measurement that you have in the organization. And to do that, leaders will have to walk the talk. HR will have to help them hold hand and help them walk that talk. Believe you me, from human values, it is extremely simple to do. The challenge is walking from human value to creating shareholder value. That path, when commences, some people dither away and forget those human values. But I think employees also now are looking at organizing every employee, every person, be it contractual, contingent, gig, permanent. When he comes to your workplace, he is coming for the quest of finding purpose and meaning to his or her own life. And the organizations which will offer them that, they will stick there. And organizations which will not offer them purpose and meaning to their lives, they will not stay there. And therefore, our value proposition somehow needs to superimpose the people's purpose and meaning of their lives. Sounds difficult, but very easy to do. Because for me at least, personally, there are 2-3 things that I firmly believe was and will ever remain universally true. What Mahatma Gandhi espoused or Nelson Mandela espoused, if we can adopt servant leadership as the way of our leading people. With only 3 principles, and I'm Chang and international delegates using the Sanskrit word Satya, Seva and Prem, truth, service and love, are eternal values of humanity. Nurturing those into our value proposition and into our way of life, I think is the biggest resolution for HR fraternity in general everywhere. And that's where the challenge lies. But I'm sure with the centricity that the function got now during the pandemic, we are going to see that change happen. And I personally wish all of you good luck as we traverse in that new journey. It's been a delight for me to coordinate this session with leaders like Sonali, Arindam, Chang, and Rajan. So I want to thank you for your time. You heard Hong Kong, Bangkok, Singapore, and Beijing on the session today. It was really a delight for me to be speaking to you. I'm extremely delighted I close this session. I once again wish all of you great times ahead. Happy New Year again. And let's rewrite the rules as it were in the AC era with keeping human values at the core of everything that we will do.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muttal.
Thank you. I sign off here and I hand it over back to CJ Charanjit. CJ, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muttal. Thank you, everyone, for your immense contribution to make this event so successful. Thank you to all our speakers, Rajan, Arindam, Chang, and Sonali. Thank you, Dr. Muttal, definitely for your brilliant moderation. Thank you, Ashish, for sincerely committing to the event to make it a success. And thank you, everyone, for investing your time with us. We will see you next time soon. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
To all of
Bye-bye.
you.
Stay safe, guys. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Sonali.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.